Throughout the course of cinematic history, very few films have had as big of an impact on the horror genre as John Carpenter's 1978 horror classic, Halloween. The story of a pure evil psychopath breaking out of the institution and going on a killing spree isn't exactly the most unique concept ever, but John Carpenter managed to make it so engaging. It has arguably one of the most iconic antagonists in cinematic history with Michael Myers. It was the inspiration for many popular horror movies like My Bloody Valentine, Alone in the Dark, and Friday the 13th. Yes, a series in the running for most iconic horror movie franchise of all time would not exist today without Halloween. It created a new uproar for a subgenre of horror called slashers, even though it isn't a slasher, it's a thriller. And with its immense popularity, it would go on to lead a franchise of 12 other movies. Those 12 other movies having a wide range of quality to them. Well, in the spirit of Halloween and hopefully not getting a new entry in this franchise for at least another decade, please for the love of God, let's rank all 13 movies in the Halloween franchise. I think it's really funny how the Halloween series has 13 movies right now, but the Friday the 13th series only has 12. Talk about irony. So what am I looking for in the search for a good Halloween movie? Well, it's not entirely complicated. I'm mainly looking for a good story, good characters, and whether or not the movie is actually scary. It's terrifying how few movies in this franchise actually meet all three of those checkboxes, but I'm getting ahead of myself. One other thing I'm looking for in these movies is how good they use their main antagonist, Michael. I want him to be scary, be an actual menacing threat, and have a decent looking mask. Obviously one movie is going to be an exception to that rule, but we'll get to that when we get to it. And finally, remember this is all just my opinion. If you're willing to respect my opinions, I'm willing to respect yours. This is especially true for this list because, oh boy, am I going to make some people mad with this list. With all this being said, here it is. All 13 Halloween movies ranked from worst to best. Let's get this lightning scary list started, shall we? Listen, I'm really trying here to make this somewhat Halloween themed. Just try and stick with me throughout this, please. Number 13. Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. I'm talking about both cuts of this movie, they're both equally awful. Halloween 6 is one of the worst horror movies I have ever seen. Period. I know a lot of you were expecting another movie to be dead last, and trust me, that movie's coming up real soon. And that movie's probably worse than this movie on an objective level, but this movie just ticked me off on so many levels. The biggest problem with this movie is it tries to add lore and depth to the Halloween series in the worst way possible. Turns out Michael wasn't just the embodiment of pure evil just because he's, you know, the boogeyman? Nah, that would be too boring and simple. We need to give him a reason for why he's this messed up. So they give an explanation of Michael apparently being turned pure evil by a curse from some dark cult, and that Loomis's supposedly best friend is actually the leader of this cult, and he's named the Man in Black, and that this cult is the reason why Michael's been hunting his family for all these years. And you're probably asking, does this come out of left field and doesn't feel built up at all? Yes, dear viewer, yes it does. Michael in this movie is just bad. The mask looks fine, but this new reasoning for him being so evil just makes him so much less terrifying. Also, he sucks in both cuts' climaxes. In the theatrical cut, he gets knocked out by Tommy Doyle with a lead pipe and then just disappears at the end. But in the producer's cut, he is so much worse. They give the lovely implication that the father of Jamie's baby, Jamie being Michael's niece, is Michael. There is a major difference between being twisted to scare the audience and being twisted just for shock value. There are some lines that you just don't cross with stuff like this. This is one of those lines! Also, I thought Michael was actively trying to end his bloodline. Why would y'all get Jamie pregnant through Michael? That would just add to his bloodline. And to add insult to injury, Michael gets stopped in his tracks by Tommy putting his own blood and some stones on the floor. This is what fans consider one of the best Halloween sequels? Am I the crazy one here? And the movie ends with Michael becoming the new Man in Black and Loomis becoming the new Michael, or Loomis becoming Michael's new caretaker? I don't know. Even ignoring the insulting stuff they do to Michael, everything else in this movie is just bad. Barring the dad's head explosion death in the theatrical cut, none of the kills are that memorable at all. Jamie gets sidelined in this movie and gets unceremoniously killed off. The new characters this movie introduces aren't interesting at all, and most of the acting isn't very good. This was one of Paul Rudd's first movie roles, and he's not very good in it. His character is also just annoying and creepy, and they try to make him the new Loomis, even though we'll get to the actual Loomis soon. But he's not likable or interesting, so they failed miserably on that front. He's also apparently the little boy Laurie was babysitting in the first movie. This isn't even the worst case of shoehorning a minor character from the first movie in this movie. Wynn has apparently always been Loomis's best friend for all these movies, even though the only time we've seen him beforehand in this series is him arguing with Loomis in the first movie. Did the writers of this movie even watch the first movie? I'm genuinely asking here. Loomis is in this movie, and this was Donald Pleasance's final movie role before his death. So how does his character go out? Screaming in terror at the end of both cuts of this movie. And it's not like his passing was a sudden thing. They knew he was dying, and this is how you send off one of the consistently best parts of the original Halloween movies? Unbelievable. The plot makes little to no sense, it's not scary in the slightest, it has no atmosphere to speak of. The pacing drags in some parts of the movie, yet rushes through other parts, and it has this unshakable sense that they were actively making stuff up as they were writing this movie. This movie is garbage, no matter which cut you watch, and it's an absolutely insulting send-off to a man who dedicated his life to this series. If you like this movie, all the power to you, but I cannot stand this ending to the original Halloween movies. 0.5 out of 10. A decent kill scene and an okay mask are the only things keeping this from getting a flat 0. Number 12. Halloween Resurrection. Okay, here's one everyone agrees is terrible. Halloween Resurrection is one of the most infamous horror movies ever made. We're talking up there with stuff like Jason Takes Manhattan, Freddy's Dead, Seed of Chucky, Jaws 4, etc, etc. And it is not hard to see why. First and foremost, this movie completely and thoroughly ruins H2O's ending. Michael apparently was not the guy whose head got chopped off, and it was instead some random innocent guy, which if you think about it for more than a millisecond makes actually no sense. And then Laura gets killed off in the first 5 minutes of the movie and completely forgotten about, rendering all the victories won in H2O basically pointless. She's then replaced by a bunch of annoying, stupid, and forgettable characters played by up-and-coming actors, and Busta Rhymes. The fact that Busta Rhymes dropkicking Michael Myers out of a window doesn't even come close to the most embarrassing thing to happen in a Halloween movie is incredibly depressing. Did you know this was directed by the same guy who gave us the original Halloween 2? Literally how? The kills are beyond lame, the acting is terrible, the plot makes no sense, the lighting and cinematography suck. I don't exactly like Michael's masks in H2O where you can see his eyes, and the mask in this movie is not much better. The dialogue is laughably atrocious. It's not scary or tense in the slightest, and its entire existence is just rage-inducing. The Halloween series could have ended on a highly satisfying note with H2O, but nope, we instead got this insulting cash grab that was aimed more for a young adult audience than actual Halloween fans. Now, if I have basically nothing positive to say about this movie, why is it not dead last? Again, this is arguably worse on an objective standpoint, but Curse just made me more mad. That's literally it. Overall, Halloween Resurrection, barring some so bad it's good moments, is an absolutely miserable viewing experience. A movie that not only destroys itself with its sheer crappy quality, but brings H2O down with it by ruining that movie's amazing ending. This movie is awful, plain and simple. 1 out of 10. Number 11. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Listen, I'm all for giving, feelings and emotions to a character who's, really tough and stoic, like Kratos in the new God of War games. I'm all for that stuff. You don't get to do that for a character who's been characterized as the Boogeyman. Halloween 5 is a lot like Resurrection, where it completely screws over the last movie's ending, but I'd argue it's not as atrocious in this movie. It's still terrible, don't get me wrong. They take the ending of 4 where Michael's evilness gets passed down to Jamie after his death and she becomes a new evil slasher character. Now, not only is Michael alive through incredibly stupid and convenient circumstances, but now Jamie has this psychic connection to Michael and is now a mute in a children's mental hospital. Nice job screwing over a really cool concept, writers, you absolute morons. Rachel, the really cool heroine from the last movie, gets unceremoniously killed off. Are you starting to notice the trend here? She is replaced by Tina. Tina is, without a shadow of a doubt, the most aggravating character this franchise has ever and probably will ever introduce. She's annoying, she's unlikable, her screen time is mostly made up of her out and about with her equally annoying friends. She sucks, and I was so relieved when Michael killed her. This movie has these two idiot cops for slapstick comic relief in a horror movie. Like, their introduction scene literally has some goofy cartoon music in the background. Like, have y'all ever heard of the term tonal consistency in your franchise? Very happy to say that Nightmare on Elm Street wasn't the only horror franchise around this time dealing with this goofy nonsense. Once again, Jamie is now a mute in this movie and gets sidelined. Also, they drop the mute thing for her like over halfway through the movie. This is the only movie out of the original 6 movies where I actively dislike Loomis as a character. Barring one line that goes insanely hard, he's a raging psychopath who torments Jamie for information on Michael and goes as far to use Jamie as bait for Michael in the climax. Yeah, this absolutely selfless man who literally stated that he would give up his life for those being hunted by Michael is now doing all this to a scared 9-year-old. But trust me, Loomis isn't the only character in this movie getting character assassinated. Halloween 5 has, in my opinion, barring one mask, the worst mask in the entire series. Like, this doesn't look menacing at all, it looks goofy. Why is, like, the neck out? Like, why is it not tucked in? It looks so bad. And this brute mask ain't much better. Also, Michael allows Tina to kiss him, which is just... Y'all do realize putting Michael in these comedic situations only makes him incredibly less terrifying, right? But then in the climax, when he gets the opportunity to kill Jamie, he stops because Jamie said uncle before proceeding to take off his mask and shed a tear. Again, this would be an incredibly powerful scene if it were for someone who is not Michael Myers, the boogeyman. Michael then snaps out of it before chasing after Jamie. Loomis uses Jamie as bait before trapping Michael. He gets sent to prison before a mysterious man in black breaks him out, and that's how this movie ends. And this sounds like an intriguing setup for the next movie, right? Well, apparently a 6th movie wasn't even greenlit yet and wouldn't come out for another 6 years. They had no intention of following up this movie. So for a while, this cliffhanger was meant to be the end of the Halloween movies. And in hindsight, it might have been a better option to not make a 6th movie, but I digress. Just some more complaints. The dialogue sucks. This movie isn't scary in the slightest. Most of the kills aren't good. The side characters are bad. The way they retcon Jamie's killing of her stepmom to where she apparently didn't kill her stepmom is infuriating. The pacing drags with all of Tina's scenes. The Myers house looks nothing like the Myers house from the first movie, and once again, the tone is all over the place. Now, even with all these negatives, believe it or not, there are some positives. Not a lot, but some. I think despite their characters' crappy writing, Donald Pleasance and Daniel Harris are acting their hearts out in this movie. They are really trying their best to save this sinking ship of a movie. And the scenes with Jamie and her friend Billy are incredibly cute and sweet, even if there's not many of them. It's genuinely sweet to see these two kids just interact with one another. And those are the only things I like about this movie. In short, Halloween 5 is terrible. A movie that, instead of continuing on from the interesting setup that the 4th movie ended on, this movie course corrects back to Michael in a very poorly written way. A movie that's too afraid to take risks, but the risks it does take just ruin Michael and Loomis's characters. And overall, it's just a waste of your time and my time. 2 out of 10. Number 10. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Now, I'm not an expert on Rob Zombie's works. I haven't listened to like any of his music, to my knowledge. And the only other movies of his I've seen besides the Halloween movies was The Monsters, which was also very bad. With all this being said, I can only assume his other horror movies are about as bleak and miserable to get through as these movies are. Okay, that's not entirely true for the first movie, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Anyways, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 sucks. It's such a depressing movie, and not even in an incredibly well-written way, but more just being bleak and mean-spirited for the sake of being bleak and mean-spirited. Laurie in this movie is a depressed, unlikable jerk who yells at everyone around her and is just miserable to watch on screen. Loomis has been turned into a media-obsessed scumbag who acts nothing like Loomis until the end, where he has this out-of-nowhere change of heart. Michael has his face shown and speaks in this movie.
Just because Michael screamed no in Resurrection does not give you the permission to follow in that movie's footsteps!
I'm not in love with his mask in this movie. This movie is just overly brutal and edgy. There's a scene where Michael stabs a nurse like 12 times in a row. Like, it gets to a point, man. The swearing in this movie is so obnoxious. This movie introduces concepts like Michael seeing his mother's ghost throughout the movie and barely fleshes them out or explains them at all. Laurie was apparently not told by the police that Michael was her brother because I guess they just forgot to tell her that. The pacing is whack, most of the other characters aren't memorable, the story makes no sense, the climax is incredibly underwhelming with Michael just being shot to death, because that worked so well the first time. This movie is really terrible. I will give the movie some positives. The acting is overall pretty alright. I commend Zombie for not just making a remake of the original Halloween 2, even if the movie he did make was infinitely worse. And I kinda like Danielle Harris's character. Even when she died, I felt for her father. And speaking of her father, Brad Dourif gives one of the best performances in the Halloween series in this movie. Like, this movie doesn't deserve a performance that's this good. But besides those few positives, this is an absolutely terrible movie that I would rather go the rest of my life without ever watching again. 2 out of 10. Number 9. Halloween Ends. First off, that title is a lie, and you know it. Secondly, this movie is not very good. I would even go as far to say that it's terrible. My main issue with this movie is its concept. Not the concept itself, but more which movie in this series it's getting used in. So in this movie, a guy named Corey who gets bullied a lot basically bumps into Michael in the sewers. He helps Michael murder people for most of the movie, and it's supposed to tie into this theme of rising up against bullying and evil getting passed down like in Halloween 4, which we'll get to later. Now, I don't dislike this concept at all. I think a Halloween movie doing the idea that Halloween 5 refused to do is great. My problem with this is that this is not the movie to do this in. This trilogy has been building up to Michael and Laurie's final confrontation, even though it's very poorly built up, and also that final fight happened in both of these movies, and it would have been a hell of a lot more satisfying if the series ended with either of these movies.
The final fight isn't as exciting when it's the third time you've done it in your franchise. There's a Halo joke in here somewhere.
Also, for the final Halloween movie, they sure do sideline the main selling point of the franchise. Even if I do like his mask, Michael is barely in this movie and they do nothing interesting with him. It's a joke. And also, I'm not someone who usually complains, oh, this character was nerfed and got beaten up all the time in the movie and all that crap. But after kills where Michael was just mowing through entire crowds, in this movie he gets beaten up by everyone. It's pathetic. This Corey concept also just comes out of left field. It honestly feels like David Gordon Green had this really cool idea for a Halloween movie, but he knew he only had one more movie to do it, so he just said, screw it. This movie does this Corey concept, and then it remembers, oh wait, we forgot that this was meant to be the final fight between Michael and Laurie. So they kill off Corey before giving us our final showdown. And honestly, this is easily the weakest of the final Laurie vs. Michael fights. Michael's death and Laurie destroying Michael's body were extremely anticlimactic, and I feel like this was so unsatisfying because of this trilogy's structure. I'd genuinely argue that this trilogy has a worse story structure than the Star Wars sequel trilogy. There's no possible way they planned out this trilogy structure at all. They have the first movie that if it was its own little movie, that would have been fine for the most part, but then that movie was a huge success, so they had to force it into a trilogy. Kills feels like a movie that has borderline nothing to do with 2018, and this movie feels like a great idea wasted on a misguided movie. This trilogy didn't build up to this final battle well at all. Even ignoring all that, this movie is still bad. For how much of the movie is about him, I just could not get invested in Corey as a character. The story makes little to no sense, the pacing is all over the place, and everyone in this movie is either a unlikable jerk, a moron, or in a lot of cases, both. So many of the kills are cutaways from actually seeing the kills.
Give kills this, at least the kills were entertaining. And I could see them.
This movie is terrible, but it does have some good things about it. The acting is really good, especially from Rohan Campbell as Corey. The music's alright, and once again, I really like this movie's concept. Just wish it weren't so utterly wasted in the wrong movie to do it with. All in all, this movie is a terrible conclusion to the Halloween story and an insult in general. 2.5 out of 10. Listen, I cannot in good faith put this on the same tier as 5 and Zombies Halloween 2. It's terrible, but it's not that terrible.
How is it possible that you have 4 timelines, 4 attempts to end your series off on a high note, and every single one of them has a terrible ending? Like, genuinely, how is that possible? Are you like actively trying to make bad endings, or have you just been this incompetent for nearly 50 years as the Halloween series? Of course it's the latter option.
Number 8. Halloween Kills. Oh, don't worry, David Gordon Green isn't out of the clear just yet. Okay, so Kills should probably be a lot lower on this list from its sheer stupidity, but I'm gonna be completely honest with you, that's kind of why it's this high on the list. This movie is so unbelievably bad and stupid that it is so entertaining to watch. It is one of my personal examples of it's such a train wreck, but I can't look away. And being an entertaining train wreck means it's a lot more bearable to watch than the last 5 train wrecks I've talked about. Don't get me wrong, this movie sucks. Everyone in Haddonfield is such an unbelievably brain-dead lobotomite. Like, everyone jokes about Michael being the hero destroying the idiots in Haddonfield, and like, that's unironically kind of what this movie is. Anytime these people are put in a life or death situation, they choose the stupidest possible option. Like, it gets to a point where it actually just feels like comedy.
I could seriously make a whole video dedicated to just every stupid decision a character makes in this movie.
Laurie is absolutely useless to the story. She actually does nothing in this movie besides talk like a philosopher the entire time. The main character is basically a middle-aged Tommy Doyle, and just like in Halloween 6, he sucks in this movie. He has seen Michael's face before on the news hours earlier, yet when this short, pudgy mental hospital escapee walks into the hospital, he and everyone else in this hospital think that this short guy is Michael Myers.
Would you believe me if I told you that doesn't even come close to the stupidest decision a character makes in this movie?
Also, you are going to hate the phrase "evil dies tonight" by the end of the movie. Like, the idea of a mob going up against Michael sounds really cool. Unfortunately, they had to make everyone who isn't Michael in this movie a complete moron. The pacing is whack, the story is terrible. Michael's new motivation in this timeline is that he wants to go home and look out of the window. I'm not making that up, because for some godforsaken reason, these morons decided to render the original Halloween 2 non-canon. The ending is so abrupt, it feels like they cut the original ending of the movie. With all these negatives brought up, this movie does have some unironic positives. The acting's pretty good, the kills are really good in this, no matter how stupid they are in terms of plot. Michael is cool in this, I really like his mask. And it has 2 genuinely really great scenes. The scene where Michael fights and kills all these firefighters is awesome. And the scene after where Michael kills these 2 old people was really brutal. Plus, I think barring some really stupid decisions from these cops, the flashback scene is really good. How accurate they made this look to the original 1978 movie is insane to me. Like, this mask looks ripped right out of the original movie. It's so good. The opening like 10 to 15 minutes of this movie is genuinely great. It's just a shame that the next 90 to 95 minutes are complete nonsense. Overall, Halloween Kills is such a train wreck that I kind of love watching it for its sheer stupidity. 3.5 out of 10? Yes, one of those points is from sheer ironic enjoyment. Number 7. Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, we've made it to the first movie on the list that I would not actively consider bad. And don't worry, I am fully aware we're about halfway through this absolutely miserable list.
Rob Zombie's Halloween is such an odd movie, because while it is a remake of John Carpenter's Halloween, it only really follows the events of the first Halloween movie in the second half. The first half is basically showing Michael's childhood up until he murders his sister and his time in the asylum with Loomis. And honestly, I don't really love this first half. Again, this movie is just so mean-spirited. Not as bad as the second movie, but still. I did not enjoy watching anything with Michael's family, barring like a kill or two. The swearing in these scenes is about as bad as the entirety of the second movie.
I don't usually mind excessive swearing in movies. I mean, Whiplash is in my top 6 movies ever, but just like, it's so obnoxious in these Rob Zombie movies.
I do think the parts with Michael and the asylum with Loomis had some good stuff in it, but it just felt kind of undercooked. I just wish we got more of it in the movie to really make us care about this version of Michael and Loomis's dynamic. And then the second half is basically the original Halloween, but much more gory. I do appreciate that Rob Zombie at least tried to do his own unique story while still adapting the original Halloween. It makes this remake really stand out compared to other horror remakes from this time where they just did the original film but made it worse in every possible way. God, I hate you. Even if it doesn't fully work for me, I still commend Zombie for attempting to do something new at John Carpenter's request. This movie definitely has its positives, like the performances being good, the kills being pretty cool, the main mask looking really good, and having some pretty good pacing. If the first half was just a little stronger and a lot less miserable to get through, I definitely feel like this would be an extremely solid entry in the Halloween franchise. But as for right now, it is okay, with a fair shot of going up to being decent in the future. 5.5 out of 10. Number 6. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
How do you even possibly start to explain to someone how this ties in with the other Halloween movies?
Now I'm gonna be completely honest, I was not the biggest fan of Season of the Witch for the longest time. And no, it wasn't because Michael wasn't in it. Get that stupid thought out of your head. I just thought this movie was really out there and strange. Like almost too strange to the point where I couldn't really get on board with it. But after a recent rewatch, I still don't think it's a great movie, but I've warmed up to it a lot. I think this movie is a really good glimpse into a world where the Halloween series did go the anthology route. For those who don't know, the Halloween series was originally supposed to be an anthology series, not solely about Michael Myers and his escapades. So after they completed Michael's story in the first 2 movies, they decided to make the third one start the anthology idea. But because they got backlash because there was no Michael in the movie, that anthology idea was basically dead after that.
It's basically the precursor to Friday Part 5.
I think I've just learned to appreciate how nuts this movie is. The first 2 Halloween movies are about a guy in a mask killing people in a neighborhood and a hospital. Season of the Witch involves an evil toy maker creating masks that will kill kids when a commercial with a specific sound comes on, which makes the mask crush the kids' heads and release little bugs, and also he has coins that will create lightsabers to kill the adults. I don't even know half of what I just said. I don't think all of it works, but the concepts this movie goes for are so bizarre that it almost loops around to being somewhat charming?
There's so much charm and whimsy in this movie about kids dying via getting their heads crushed in like a grape.
The characters are fine, I guess. I think it has some pretty good kills and atmosphere to it. The pacing's alright, the music is actually pretty good. I don't know, this is just such a difficult movie to discuss. Like, you can't just talk about a movie that's this insane in a 3-minute segment in a ranking video. Overall, I think Season of the Witch is a movie that I respect more than I actually like. It's cool to see a movie that actually tries to go for the anthology angle, but that doesn't mean I love the movie. It is alright, I guess. 6 out of 10. Number 5. Halloween 2. Halloween 2 is a good sequel and a good movie. That's it, that's all I have to say on this movie. It's a good sequel that just doesn't do anything as good as the original. I think it has an alright mask, even though I do not understand how you made the original mask worse, considering this is supposed to be the exact same mask. The blood tears near the end do make the mask look really cool though. The hospital set piece is a pretty interesting location until every other Halloween timeline did it, and it was nowhere near as effective in any of them. Loomis is good in this movie, Laurie's in this movie. Yeah, the acting is good, the story is good, the kills are good, this movie is just overall pretty good. I think the final act is really intense and a satisfying, formerly, ending to both Michael and Loomis. I think the movie has some really good atmosphere, nowhere near as much as the first movie, but still. Now I know a lot of people have their opinions on the reveal of Laurie being Michael's sister.
Hell on Earth is becoming more apparent outside with each passing day, but y'all care more about the guy with the William Shatner mask having a sister.
Now I see why people don't like this twist, because it removes some of what made Michael so terrifying in the first movie. The fact that he was terrorizing Laurie for the simple fact that he was the boogeyman, an unstoppable force of pure evil. And trust me, they take this family stuff way too far later down this timeline. but I think it does lead to some good things, like 2 films we'll get to later. So overall, I'm indifferent to this twist. So yeah, once again, the original Halloween 2 is just good. Nothing amazing, nothing horrible, just pretty good. 7 out of 10. Number 4. Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. No, this was not intentional, this franchise just hates me. Anyways, I've always thought that Halloween 4 was just alright. But the more time goes on, the more I really do enjoy this movie. First off, I think it has a great Michael. I don't think the mask is as bad as people make it out to be, but like, it looks nothing like the mask on the poster, which the mask on the poster is excellent. The bandaged look at the beginning does look really cool though. Also, the fact they have a pink mask with blonde hair at one point in the movie is inexcusable. I don't care how much people defend it. But I like how this Michael is a lot more intelligent and systematic with taking out the power and the police force before going for Jamie, which, speaking of whom, I really like Jamie Lloyd in this movie. I think Danielle Harris gives a really good performance as this character in both movies she's in, but especially in this movie. Rachel is a really great character who rises up to protect Jamie in this movie. Logic be damned, I am so happy Loomis survived that fire.
I think Halloween 3 was just so absurd that Loomis surviving a fire was almost plausible by comparison.
The kills are really good. I like how they tried going back to the feeling of the original Halloween, and the final confrontation is really intense. A final confrontation that totally killed and ended Michael and definitely did not bring him back in the laziest way possible. Nope. And also, we can't talk about this movie without mentioning the ending. The evil has been passed down from Michael to Jamie, and we end with this shot. Such an awesome ending. I can't wait to see where they go from here, damn it. Overall, I think Halloween 4 is a more than solid film in the series. It's such a refreshing entry in the series, even ignoring the dumpster fires that come after it. 7.5 out of 10. Number 3. Halloween 2018. Even though I was 10 years old when it came out, I vividly remember everyone losing their minds over Halloween 2018. Now, in my opinion, yeah, this movie's great. I'm just pulling your leg. It is easily the best Halloween movie in the David Gordon Green trilogy by light years. Do I think it is a little ruined because of how bad kills and ends were? Kind of. But it's still a great movie. First off, this might have my favorite Michael mask ever. This is how you do the weathered, bashed up Michael mask right. This shot will be an all-timer for best shots in a Halloween movie. I think Karen and Allison are alright in this movie.
They're definitely in that Ray kind of character where, like, they are solid in the first movie, but by the last movie, they're just like such bad characters that it kind of just ruins their overall character in the overall trilogy.
You know, I'm starting to realize now how similar the Green Halloween trilogy and Star Wars sequels are. I think Laurie is really good in this movie, even if she's a bit of a worse version of herself from another movie that we'll talk about shortly. The kills are good, the soundtrack is amazing, it's got a solid story to it. I think Laurie and Michael's final confrontation in this movie is really good, and the shot of Michael burning in the house is another all-timer. Have I mentioned yet how the cinematography in this movie is really great? I do feel like some of the themes that this movie tries to deal with aren't exactly executed amazingly. Plus, again, this movie does feel like a worse version of another movie we'll talk about shortly. I mean, the fact that Halloween 2 has been decanonized makes it to where I feel like Laurie's paranoia doesn't make as much sense as H2O's. But besides that, I think this is a great movie and is easily the best modern Halloween movie. 8 out of 10. Number 2. Halloween H2O 20 years later.
This movie's title is so dumb and clunky. Like, just call it something else. The 20 years later just exists to be like, oh, it's the 20th anniversary of the original, guys. Like, it's a sticker on the DVD. It's so dumb. Anyway, this movie rocks.
Listen, is this movie a lot like Scream? Yes. But I don't see why that's a bad thing. People pretend like this movie is only a Scream knockoff when, like, no. Yeah, it takes some inspiration from Scream, but calling this a ripoff just feels so disingenuous. Anyways, this movie is really great. I think this movie does the Laurie being paranoid of Michael returning concept better than 2018 did, because Halloween 2 is actually canon here. What a concept. They made Laurie feel like much more of a real human being in this movie than in 2018. I'm not trying to lambaste 2018, it's just that this movie does this scared Laurie concept so much better. I think this might arguably have the best cast of characters in any Halloween movie. The kills are pretty good, it has some great atmosphere, it's paced very well. I really like the Michael here besides... Okay, let's rip the band-aid off right now. Michael's masks in this movie suck. Being able to see his eyes look so goofy. Also, a huge detriment of Halloween 2 being canon to this movie is that it makes no sense that you can see Michael's eyes when they were shut out at the end of Halloween 2. I can excuse the fact that he doesn't really look burned alive because you don't see much of his body, but this eye thing makes me so annoyed. Also, the CGI mask for one scene is the worst mask of the entire series. This looks awful. Why does this look so bad? Like, the mask looking this terrible is easily the worst aspect of the whole movie.
With that being said, to counteract that, this movie does have the best final Laurie vs. Michael fight.
Even ignoring how they absolutely destroyed this ending in Resurrection, the final fight and Laurie finally killing her monster was so satisfying. This movie is far from a perfect ending to the Halloween movies, namely The Mask. But out of all the movies that were meant to be endings to the series, this is easily the best ending to the Halloween movies. If you just watch 1, 2, then H2O, you got yourself a pretty neat little trilogy. Unfortunately, 10 other movies in this series exist. Overall, H2O is both a really great horror movie and an amazing, meant to be, ending to the Halloween movies. 8.5 out of 10. Number 1. Halloween 1978.
I mean, are you even surprised?
I don't like to always be like, oh, the first is the best. Nothing can ever top the first movie, but like, come on. We're talking about one of the most celebrated horror movies of all time. I mean, what do you want me to say? This movie has almost everything to make it the perfect Halloween movie. Almost everything. I don't think the overall cast is great. Besides Loomis and Laurie, the other characters aren't very interesting at all. Plus, I think some of the dialogue has aged pretty poorly.
Besides that, yeah, this movie's fantastic.
The mask is amazing. It is such a simple mask, I do not understand how they mess it up so often in this series. It has so many iconic kills and shots. It has probably the best version of Michael in the series. That's because Michael doesn't feel like just a serial killer. He feels like a force of nature. Again, I don't hate the twist of Michael being Laurie's brother, but I feel like Michael just being the boogeyman, a force of pure evil that just comes and goes as he pleases, makes him so much more terrifying. The dialogue that hasn't aged poorly is excellent. Laurie and Loomis are really great characters. The atmosphere and horror in this movie is superb. I still get uneasy looking at some of these shots. It's very well paced, the story is very engaging. I haven't mentioned it at all yet, but the main Halloween theme is amazing and is easily one of, if not the best horror movie theme ever. The acting is very good, the cinematography is amazing, and the final confrontation is so tense. And the ending with Michael disappearing, perfection. This movie is not perfect in my opinion, but it is a fantastic horror movie and it is a horror classic for a reason. 9.5 out of 10. The best Halloween movie without question. Also, as a little bonus, here's a Michael Mask tier list I made.
Well, that was miserable.
Overall, the Halloween franchise is certainly a movie franchise. I feel like the series falls into the exact same trap that most horror franchises fall into. You have a successful horror movie, both critically and financially, and because of that success, they want to create sequels and or a franchise out of it. And by now, they've rebooted it and remade it and given it so many sequels to where you've kind of soured the image of the original in some people's eyes. It can also get repetitive for some people because how many times can they bring this horror villain back? Now, Halloween doesn't get as repetitive as something like Texas Chainsaw or Friday the 13th. I just think this is a series affected by constantly messing up and having to go back to square one. Anytime we have a failure in some way, back to the original movie. I'm just hoping for whenever we get a new Halloween remake or reboot or whatever, do not bring back Laurie, have Michael feel like the force of evil nature he was in the original, do not try and make it a sequel to the original, and try something new. The reason why people enjoy stuff like Season of the Witch or the insane people who like N so much is because they felt so unique in a franchise that is let's be honest, pretty formulaic. Halloween is a franchise that has affected the horror genre in a way little to no other horror franchises have. Whether it be the original being the thing to popularize the modern slasher movie, or Halloween 2018 popularizing the idea of horror legacy sequels, for better or for worse. So let Halloween rest for like a decade, maybe two, and have it try and continue the impact it's always had on the horror genre without it tying in with the original movie. Just please, make another good Halloween movie.
And for my final Halloween trick this year, instead of giving kids candy, I will give them the knowledge of where babies really come from. Happy Halloween, everyone!